All right, in this video, I'm going to go over the 8 steps that I use, the checklist that I use to build winning B2B marketing strategies. I use this same process every single time, and I think it will keep you on track. And I think it'll keep you out of some of the mistakes that we often make as marketers when we kind of just jump in and do before we sort of think through what ultimately that business objective is or what we're trying to accomplish with our B2B marketing strategy. So let's hop into the checklist. First and foremost, and this is where most of the kind of fidelity and the effectiveness of the campaigns are lost in planning, is the lack of research. So take some time and do some research, really understand the ICP, the competitors that are already in the space. I think too often, as the old adage goes, if you've got a hammer, everything looks like a nail. As marketers, especially those of us with some experience, we probably have some go-to sort of tactics and strategies and campaigns and approaches that have worked effectively for us over time. And it doesn't mean not to use those. It just means to step back for a second and do some of that detailed research. Some of my favorite ways to do this, of course, is to take a look at some of the tools that are available to you. If you've got some SEO expertise or PPC expertise, you can dive into those tools. Just simply kind of looking at your competitors. And you probably know your competitors. If you're working with a sales team, which you should be in alignment with your sales team. You can ask them who those competitors are, who they run into, and just literally take a look and dive into them. Take a look at the people who are involved. On LinkedIn, you can kind of see where they came from. That can give you some really good clues as you start to sort of build that B2B marketing strategy. And then also take a look at the ICPs. Again, you should be able to get a good definition from your sales team as to who they're most effective with. And again, take a look at those people. Take a look specifically at people they've talked to or been effective with. Get into your CRM and then go to LinkedIn with some of those folks that they've been effective with. And then one of my favorite, really requires no one, but can be kind of your best interview. And that is, and I'll do a whole video on this because I don't see a lot of people doing this, but go to ChatGPT and take that ICP or a couple of those ICPs, that ideal customer profile, ideal customer avatar that you've built up, and feed that in as a prompt to ChatGPT. Say, hey, you're a VP of marketing with this type of company. Give it revenue. You can give it all kinds of parameters and characteristics and say, hey, this is who you are, and I want to interview you and ask you some questions. And then after that prompt, you will watch ChatGPT will come back with a response that will basically tell them, hey, I'm in this role, and it will sort of parrot back to you what you told it to be. And then from there, you can make sure that you've kind of narrowed that in, and then simply interview that. And in that thread, that dialogue, just interview. What are your pains? What are your anxieties? What are some of the personal things that you're thinking about? And again, all kinds of deep, interesting questions that you can ask. And you can do that for a couple different ICPs and create sort of your own AI version of a really effective deep dive survey. Okay, so that's your research. I spent a lot of time there because I want to make sure that I have a clear understanding of what I'm trying to achieve, and I have all of the raw materials to start building this campaign. The second piece is to make sure that you're being niche driven. So even if you're building a bigger campaign or you have some really big, audacious objectives, it's helpful to sort of niche down as close as you can. And then, and again, this is another place you can use ChatGPT, try to become, as much as you can, as much as reasonable, a domain expert. And when I say domain expert, I mean actually put yourself in the chair of that ICP and trying to work within that business. So really learn how that business works. You will be so much more effective in your outreach and the campaigns that you build if you truly understand the business from their seat. So niche driven will make that so much easier to do and really ratchet down and get you to be a little bit more effective and make that overall strategy that you're building a little bit more attainable. It also gives you a tiny test case. So it's good to do multiple tests. The more you niche down, the smaller those campaigns can be initially, so you can get some immediate feedback. All right, number 3, the landing page. This is probably one of the most critical components to actually generating leads. Make sure that you've created a landing page first for kind of all of those targets or all of those campaigns approaches that you're going to attempt. So you've defined your ICP, you've kind of defined your approach as to how you're going to go in with pain or solution and those sorts of things. And then make sure you have a landing page for the product or service specifically that you're going to offer. And it should be starting to line up with the message that you're going to use. So ideally, and we haven't even got to the messaging part, but you're going to create some sort of outreach message or advertising message or campaign message or SEO content sort of approach and topic. And then you want that to match your landing page, because everything that you do out there, whether it's social media, LinkedIn, Google Ads, SEO, is going to ultimately push back to this landing page. And you want that landing page to, one, capture the lead, because most of the time when they hit that landing page, they've already decided to inquire with you, right? 70% of those are ready to interact with you. So make sure that positioning statement, that value prop, and the lead capture form are all there right at the top, so that they can go ahead and convert into a lead without any distraction or friction. And then the rest of that landing page is simply going to support reinforcing trust and credibility and all those the benefits of engaging with you or taking that meeting or scheduling that meeting, and then essentially sort of drive them up to the top of the page. So make sure you sorted that out. Eventually, that may be a larger website, but depending on where you are in your growth as a startup, you may just have a landing page and then ultimately build a website around that. So landing page is the most important. Then, now that we have kind of our infrastructure, we have our research in hand, now we're going to go to audience development. Now we have to actually build out an audience, a following, and get a channel developed so that we can actually market into. Again, another place where people often make a mistake of getting all their marketing material, their sales collateral, their advertising, but they don't actually have a channel developed, right? They don't have any reputation on the ad platform or as an advertiser. They don't have any SEO traffic yet because they haven't built enough content and taken enough time. They don't have anybody listening or following them on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on YouTube, on Twitter, X, I guess, wherever you're kind of going from a channel perspective. Make sure that you have a channel of distribution. Make sure you have an audience inside of those channels. So you may need to drop back a little bit and do some audience development. And usually that's as simple as going into that channel and producing some content, or reaching out into the channel, or running some advertising and getting a little bit of credibility as an advertiser on that platform. So whatever that channel is, make sure that you give yourself enough time or set expectations that you're going to need to develop the channel a little bit, and you won't get your sort of immediate lead results until you've got a sizable audience around you. So audience development is critical, and it should be a step in your plan so that when you're setting that in front of executives or stakeholders, that they have expectations that, hey, there's going to take a little bit of time for us to develop that channel and create an audience within it. Then the rest of these are more of the tactical things, right? So I won't go into too much depth. These are the things that everybody always talks about, but start to think about the tactics that you're going to use. So often for me, especially with B2B, I like to lead with SEO and content, whether that's inside of a platform like LinkedIn or YouTube or X, where there's already my ICPs in there, and I just have to sort of attract them with content, or on my website. Ideally, if I've got a website that's already got some credibility, I can hang content off of that in the categories that I'm looking, and that will in essence attract searches and bring people in as well. So that's where I like to start, is with content, and with either in a platform that already has my ICPs and some audience, or an easier way to develop the audience, or I'm going out to my website. I'm probably going to do both, even if I don't have my SEO sort of going and the website doesn't have credibility or domain authority or anything like that yet. I at least need to get some content hanging off of that, so that Google can kind of do its thing, and we can kind of get there over time as we're working on these more sort of immediate response type of channels. The next one is just advertising, right? PPC, Google Ads, Facebook ads. Again, depending on who your target is and how you're doing it, it might dictate the ad platforms that you use, but almost always I'm at least starting with Google Ads, and then probably LinkedIn ads as well. But definitely Google Ads. 90% of the traffic comes from Google, and that's the search engine. So that's going to be your top one. The other thing is YouTube, but a lot of the YouTube stuff you can actually get organically. You don't have to go down the ad platform. And then number 7, and this is where a lot of people end up starting, but I don't know that it's the best place to start, and that is outreach. So cold email outreach. I like to start these other things, these content and working my social media platforms, so that when I start my email outreach, one, I should have done all of my work to make sure that I have good ICPs and I have a good list developed. But ideally, I've already targeted that same list in LinkedIn with my content, and when I send out that email or those email sequences, again, ideally, they've already heard of me. They've already seen some of my content. Maybe they've even sort of binged it and gone down that rabbit trail with me. And so they've maybe bought into that philosophy a little bit. I'm going to get a lot better response rate if I've already started to surround them. So even if I'm just doing straight outreach, maybe I don't have the funds to, the budgets to do all of these things. Even if I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to put all my eggs in the outreach basket, I'm going to do LinkedIn connections strategy and campaign ahead of doing my email outreach. So at least in LinkedIn, they will have already seen me and become sort of aware of my brand and my offering. And then when that email comes in, it will not come in cold. So I would never lead with email and none of these other things. So ideally, you're doing all of it to build up, again, that audience. That's the most important thing. The biggest asset that you're building is that audience that is aware of your product and your company brand. And then from there, that email outreach will be so much more effective. And then the last step in the 8-step process is my analytics. I make sure that when I build out that landing page, I have conversion tracking already built into my GA4, my Google Analytics, so that I'm very clear as to what activities are producing the lead. And then ideally, if you have the resources, you're going to set up a Google dashboard or Looker Studio or something like that. But at the very least, you should get well acquainted with GA4 or Google Analytics, have conversion tracking set up in there so that you can watch the channels at work, you can watch the traffic at work and see what's producing your leads, and you can double down ultimately on what's working. So I hope you enjoyed kind of going through my checklist, and it's been helpful. You can kind of double check it against what you're doing. I would love for you to join me as a subscriber. So hit that subscribe, that notification bell. And of course, if you've been here all this time, I would really appreciate a like on this video. Any questions? Drop them in the comments. I'm active in there, and I will be happy to answer any follow-up that you have. And until then, I will see you on the next video.